In this video, I tell you what to do with clays that are lacking in good working qualities, and I also give you my best advice on what to do with clays that just aren't working out the way you'd like. Hey guys, I know it's been a long time. 2-month dry spell between pottery videos, so I want to apologize. I've had a lot of things going on. I'm ready to come back and hit it hard. I'm going to call this Season 2 of Andy Ward's Ancient Pottery. So I'm going to try to get a video out, at least one video per week from here going forward, at least for the next 8-9 months, maybe take another hiatus next summer. The trouble is summers around here are really hot, so it's hard to get outside and film. It's hard to make pottery in my studio because of the back porch. So I'm going to see what I can do about getting a filming schedule so that I don't have to maybe record videos during the hottest, driest part of the summer. Coming back today, I want to talk about a subject that is apparently near and dear to many viewers' hearts, and that is because I get a lot of this question. And here it is, roughly. If I could kind of distill down 100 questions into one, it's like this. I found clay near my house, in my area. I've tried to use it for making pottery, but it's too, and in this spot we can fill in, too sticky, too short, it cracks a lot, warps when it dries. It's got problems. How do I fix it? What do I do to make this clay usable? And I get this question all the time, maybe weekly almost, sometimes more than that. So a lot of people are running into this. And so the best advice I can give you is what I'm going to tell you now, and that's how to deal with clays that you found that maybe don't really have the best working properties. I'm here at a primo location to demonstrate clay that doesn't have great working properties. This is a local clay quarry outside of Tucson where they used to dig out clay to make bricks. And maybe it was good for making bricks, but in my opinion, it's not very good for pottery. See, I live in an area where wild clay is not really super rare. There's a lot of it, but good quality clay that really has good properties that I want for hand building, are really, really quite rare. And I don't know what to say about your area because probably your local geology has a huge impact on what clays are available, what qualities of clay are available. But I know that here in southern Arizona, clays with good working qualities are hard to come by. This clay location was pointed out to me by an accomplished potter who I respected. So when he first told me about it, I began using it. And I used it for a number of years simply because I respected this potter who pointed it out to me. I know he used it, and therefore I thought, if it's not good, if it's not working for me, it's my fault. I've done something wrong. It's, I'm not processing it right, or, and it took a long time for me to kind of get the courage or the self-assurance. It took a while for me to gain that self-assurance in pottery to say, you know what, I really don't like this clay. And so sometimes you have to get to that point where you're able to say, this really isn't the clay for me. It's not working for me. Maybe it works for you. Everybody builds differently. Everybody's looking for different things in clay. There are 3 main characteristics in clay that I look for in a wild clay. It needs to have plasticity. But it can't have too much plasticity, else it gets sticky, right? So you want plasticity, but you want workability. You don't want it to be sticky. You want it to have a nice texture, right? So texture, plasticity, texture, and wet strength. So I don't want a clay that's going to slump, right? I build large forms, and I don't want to have to wait an hour for my clay to firm up before I add more. And I know a lot of people have clay like that. They build a couple of coils. They have to walk away for half hour, an hour, let that firm up, build more coils. I want something that's got enough wet strength that I can build it all in one sitting if I want to. Obviously, there are some shapes that lend themselves more to that than others, but I want one with a relative amount of wet strength. And this clay has it in plasticity and texture. It is good clay. It's lacking in wet strength. It just wants to kind of sit down on you all the time. You build a form, it kind of wants to just, slump down. So, there are things you can do to improve wet strength. Adding more temper can give it more wet strength. You can mix it with other clays. But you have to think about the time involved, right? The time processing more temper, adding more temper. And then what does that temper do? It's also taking away plasticity. So that might not be what you need in your clay either. And then you have a grittier clay, and perhaps that's not what you are comfortable working with. So it's all trade-offs. But in this case, with this clay, the answer for me eventually, after trying several things, was just to walk away from it. Just to say, this isn't the clay for me. I'm going looking somewhere else. Here's the thing. It's a big world. There's a lot of other clay sources out here. The next one may not be this convenient because this one's right next to a paved road, so it's easy to get to. It's a place where nobody hassles you for digging. But at the same time, it's not a good clay. For me, it was worth going out and exploring and finding more clays. The best way to know something about the quality of your clay before you bring it home is to field test it. The way I field test my clay is I just carry a little bottle of water around with me or a canteen. I just wet it in my hand and then just knead it up for a few minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes even, depends on the clay, how fast it will absorb that moisture. Just work it and work it and work it in your hand until it's a plastic lump. And once that clay is plastic, you can roll a little coil, roll it around your finger and see how plastic it is, how likely it is to crack. Now remember, you just mixed it up, so it's going to become more plastic as it sets, but this will give you some idea. And you can knead it, you can make a little pancake out of it, you can even form a little pinch pot, and that'll give you a lot of idea about the quality of the clay before you get it home. That's a good way to field test your clay and figure out whether or not you want to keep it or maybe move on and test somewhere else. This clay bed is another one that was pointed out to me by a respected potter, and I used it for a number of years. But once again, it really didn't have the working properties I was looking for. In this case, the clay was short, that is, lacking in plasticity. So I used it as it is for a while. I tried improving it in ways by levigating it, that is, removing the larger particles, the silt-sized particles from the clay, which makes it more plastic. If you want to see a link to the levigation process, I'll put a video up here that shows the levigation process. So that's one way you can make a clay more plastic, besides mixing it with a more plastic sticky clay. But again, this was another example of a clay that just really didn't have the properties I was looking for in the end. I could have worked harder at maybe improving it, but even if levigating it had made it the perfect clay for me, the levigation process takes a great deal of time. And so then you have to ask yourself, what's my time worth to me? Do I enjoy processing clay that much? Or would I rather spend more time making pottery and less time working on improving my clay body? And that's kind of how I made my decision. I decided that I'd much rather spend my time making pottery than spending hours and hours improving my clay. So in the end, I discarded this clay source and I found something better. And you have to do the same. You have to look at the amount of time you're spending improving your clay or trying to improve your clay and think about, is it worth it to you? Do you enjoy the process? If you enjoy making clay bodies and improving them, that's great. But if you just want to get down to making pottery and not spend half your time preparing your clay, maybe you need to look somewhere else. Maybe you need to look harder for the right clay. Even here in southern Arizona, where good clays are hard to come by, good clays can be found. You just have to make the effort to get out there and find them. So the main point I want to leave you with is, don't be afraid to throw out substandard clay. Don't be afraid to keep looking for the right clay. Once I found a good clay that really worked for me, the quality of my pottery improved greatly because I wasn't trying to make do with some second-rate clay. And I think you should do the same thing. If you found a clay that kind of works, don't be afraid to throw it out. I think we tend to get attached to a particular clay, especially if there's some reason for that, like this clay I dug at my house, or it came from my grandma's farm, or I dug it from the ditch down the street. It's very convenient for me, you know. I think as potters, we sometimes learn not to get attached to pieces, pieces of pottery before they come out of the fire. But we might make the same mistake with clay. We might get attached to a particular clay. I really want this clay to work. The sooner you can detach yourself from that clay and just go out and keep looking until you find the right one for you, the better your pottery is going to come out, the happier you're going to be. You can keep working at trying to improve these substandard clays, and it might work for you, and it might be worthwhile for you. I can't speak for everyone. But for me, I don't want to spend all my time processing clay. I'd rather spend more of that time making pottery and less time processing clay, and that means finding the right clay for me. And that is this one here. This is my go-to clay. It's kind of reddish colored, but it has good body, has a lot of wet strength, has a right amount of plasticity, and it doesn't need a lot of tempering because it naturally has a certain amount of grit to it. I can run it through my grinder and wet it and just add a little bit of extra sand and use it just like that. So that works good for me. I hope you can find the right clay for you. Don't be afraid to keep looking and keep testing those clays. Now, if you're enjoying my channel, hit the subscribe button so you know when the next video comes out. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up so I know you liked it and I can make more videos like this. Now, if you want to learn more about finding the right clay, if you want to know where to look for clay, check out this video over here, which goes into detail about the different kinds of clay you can find in your area. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.